I think we've beaten that into the ground.
All right, good. Let's move on.
All right,
let's beat something else into the ground.
Is it
Houdini time?
It is. Where the hell's my review video?
You can.
Oh, here we go. All right, ready?
Let's do it.
And like butter.
Let's go.
All right, tonight we are reviewing Houdini, Master of Mystery. This is a relatively new release. It's from a brand new pinball company, American Pinball, released in they squeaked this in right at the end. They promised to deliver it by the end of 2017, and they did. They shipped a couple games right at the end of last year. So it's currently in production at a cost of $7,000. The game design is by Joe Balser. You know him from games like The Wizard of Oz and The Hobbit. And let's see what else. He's done Simpsons Pinball Party and a ton of other games, but he's been in the game a long time. One thing about his games, they're all kind of unique. He doesn't have a real style, I would say. But also, artwork is by Jeff Bush. And so the game itself has a pretty unique look, too. But let's get into it. So let's start with the art, since we're talking about artwork. And you're looking at the translate right now. The translate's cool because it kind of wraps around the LED screen, and it kind of all blends in and looks really nice. I'll run through some of the photos here so folks who are watching.
So I'm going to give a caveat. You've played this game more than I have because you did a bro show on it.
I did, yeah.
This is a game that when I do a review, I try to spend a considerable amount of time on a game. This is a game I have not spent a considerable amount of time on it, but I feel comfortable giving it a numerical rating. But some of the things like, the specific art, sound, toys, whatever, I might be a little lacking. So you'll take the lead.
Yeah,
on
that's
that.
fair enough.
But believe me, I have a firm rating on this game.
I knew you did, though.
I've definitely played it enough, and there was demand for us to review this game, and rightfully so.
All right. So artwork. Let's show some more pictures, photos. There we go. Bam. So this is the. Let's go back to the cabinet. So the cabinet has a kind of unique design. I didn't really like it when I first saw it, but it's grown on me. I dig it. It stands out in a lineup, so I can appreciate it for that. But it's got more of a realistic art style, and I've said before that I prefer more of a line art kind of hand drawn style that like a Zombie Yeti or Dirty Donnie brings. Versus this strikes me more like a Christopher Franchi style where it's more realistic looking, and it's personal preference. Art is subjective, but I tend to prefer the other styles. But this looks good, and a lot of folks will say that this is one of the most beautiful games they've ever seen. It's got a lot on the Playfield. Certainly, it's very colorful and it's got kind of a steampunk feel to it.
I like that about it.
Yeah, lots of gears. It's got the chains on the pop bumpers, which are cool.
It's got this gold kind of quality to it,
Yeah, it's definitely of the era. It's appropriately themed for the era that Houdini would be in, I think. There's the trunk. We'll talk about that later. There's the chains on the pop bumpers. It's kind of a minor touch, but it really works when it gets into the pop bumpers and they shake around. I like that effect a lot.
Yeah, it's cool. It looks, this game, when you kind of see it in a collection, stand up to it, it looks like quality, and I think when the first time I saw it, I was like, wow, this looks like a legit pinball machine, because this is their first game. You don't know what to expect, but it looks like quality.
Yeah.
Kind of like the first impression of the game that when you see it. Now, there in the art, there's that Houdini head. I don't like the fact that he's got like LEDs in his eyes. It looks kind of weird because they're like always purple or weird colors. I don't know.
It's creepy. It creeps me out.
Yeah, I maybe have an idea what they're trying to go for, but it's just weird to put LEDs in somebody's eyes like that, like on the artwork. It just doesn't work.
It's so front and center too that it's very distracting for me.
Yeah, I think that kind of, it's hard not to be overwhelmed by that. Like I can't think of anything else in the art but that. So I'm not a huge fan of the artwork on the Playfield.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, if it wasn't so front and center and like right in your face, when I think of Houdini, I think of the guy on the Playfield with his glowing eyes. So
no, just get rid of at least the glowing eyes.
Yeah, but maybe if you own it, you can just like cover up the inserts or something, and you'd be. I don't. Do they indicate anything? Is it like a?
I don't.
Is it of any significance? I don't know either. If not, then I would just like cover them up or something.
Yeah, that's true. They say you could take it out, but it's just weird.
All right, so art, it's pretty good except for the eyeballs.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
That's more of a lighting thing, really. But sound. So the sound, I don't know if you really were able to hear the sound, because when you were playing it, you had to turn the stream down.
This is where it's going to be more Kevin, because I couldn't really hear the sound well. I had to have it turned down.
Yeah, so I've heard interviews with Josh from American Pinball, and he talks about how they had, so there's very few recordings of Houdini out there, but the few that they had a voice actor study the voice and try to mimic it, and so they I think they do a pretty cool job of that. And I like that there's humor in it. There's he'll if he misses a skill shot, he kind of talks trash a little bit, and there's some of the playful humor in it, which I like. There's some interesting sound choices, because there's some parts of the music that sound almost like techno-ish, which I wouldn't expect from a game from this era. But I guess I also wouldn't want player piano music the whole time either, So I guess what do you do? Maybe they're trying to go for more of a steampunk vibe than a historical accuracy in that sense. Maybe, I don't know. The other thing that really stands out is the giggling girls. I don't know if you watched any of the stream at all.
No, I didn't hear that.
So on the slingshots, let me see if I got a photo of this. There's two ladies on the slingshots.
Yeah.
And when the ball hits the slingshots, it makes a giggling sound. So every time, and of course Jeff was with me, the master of pinball machine sound effects. So he was mimicking the giggling girls the whole time. Yeah. So that's all I could hear of the game when.
Is it annoying?
Yeah. Well, once somebody points it out, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's okay, that's enough.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So there's some pluses, some minuses to the sounds. I would say it's kind of average, but above average, a little above average in the sound department.
Yeah, I really want to. I wish I could hear the sound in this game, because sound's incredibly important to me in a pinball machine. So, sorry, I can't comment on that.
Yeah. All right, with toys we can talk about. You can talk about toys with me too. So yeah. Let's get into those. So there's a couple major toys on the game. The theater, or the stage they call it. That's where you kind of start all your modes.
Right? Yeah.
You bash that to open it, and then you can either try to kind of ricochet it in there off of the pop bumpers, or hit it through one of the little loop around shots to get it into the stage. It's cool. It's got the screen on top, which makes sense. And the kind of drapes that open up, very cool. Mac very well integrated with the theme. I like that. Kind of the star of the show though is the chest for locking balls. So there's probably 3/4 of the way down the playfield, there's an arm that launches the ball through the air. This top of this chest opens up, and the ball lands in there. It's kind of like a long distance version of the Jack in the Box, the Jackie thing from Aerosmith. But the accuracy of it was really good. I know James does a really good job of dialing in his games, and we'll talk about that later. Kind of some of the things he did to this game to get it playing as well as it did. But he had that hitting 100% of the time, and it's a great trick. And I think every pinball machine needs a great trick like that.
I agree.
And it took me back to I know I bring up Addams Family and the trick every time we talk about toys, but when the ball comes out, the hand comes out of the box and grabs the ball, everybody goes wow, and it's same kind of effect here.
So you know what? When I played it, I was sort of underwhelmed by that, which I shouldn't have been when you think about it. But I just remember it's sort of off to the side and to the left. So the catapult's to the far left, more towards the player, and the trunk is all the way in the back corner. And I just remember playing it. There wasn't this moment where you're just really focused on that trick happening. It kind of happens really fast. Mm-hmm. Did you notice that as well?
Yeah, but the other thing I've heard is people complaining about it takes too long, because once you've seen it a million times, you need to lock every ball that way.
Yeah, I almost think if they I don't want to draw it out either. I know what you're saying. I mean, you can make the same argument about the Addams Family hand, right? Yeah. That takes longer to do than that trick, I think.
Yeah.
But it is kind of cool. They almost should dim the playfield lights and put a spotlight on it, because it's a magic trick or something like that. There's no at least in my impression, the few times I played it, there wasn't highlighting that. I think the ball flying on Aerosmith, it's less of a distance. It's sort of less impressive, but because that trunk is so big and prominent, that you see it go in there and slam shut on it, it really reinforces what just happened. Whereas this, in my mind, you can almost you can almost miss it.
Yeah, it doesn't have the choreography it needs.
That's what it needs. It needs the choreography to highlight what cool thing is happening on it.
Yep.
Because that should be cooler than Aerosmith, but because of kind of the presentation on it, it wasn't to me.
I could see like a casual player not even noticing.
Yes, that's exactly the point. Like I was purposely like waiting and watching for it, and it struck me like, oh my god, I barely noticed it, and I was looking for it. The casual player would never even see that.
Yep. Yeah, because obviously
that's the toy, man.
Yeah,
like,
that's the thing. So that's a great toy. Maybe a little bit of presentation around it to really make it shine. But I'm just amazed that it works at all. That you can take a ball,
that's cool,
on the side of the playfield and whip it up the side of the playfield and have it.
That's
hit that trunk.
I mean, that's brilliant.
It's amazing. So good on them. I think that's pretty much all the toys.
And they could fix that in code and make the presentation better.
Oh, yeah.
That's something I doubt they would, but I mean they could, and I think they totally need to highlight that, especially for location, the casual player, because that's the hook. You want to be like, oh my god, did you just see what that did? I want to do that again. How can I do it?
And it's not easy to get it going either. So when you do it, you want it to feel like, holy crap, I did it.
Yeah.
So, and we'll get into the gameplay and stuff too. So, but before that, let's talk about the DMD or the display and lighting. So, what was your takeaway on that?
I mean, I like how the so it's got a video screen, an LCD screen in the back. That's like all modern games have these days. And I like how the LCD screen is incorporated with the theme of the game, because it's like curtains are closing on it and opening. That's part of like the screen. So you're like, oh, okay, this makes sense. I'm watching. The screen is the stage that I'm watching. Here's the problem: the animations are absolutely horrid. I mean, just so bad. I mean, these are the worst animations of any pinball machine I've seen in the modern times. I can't overstate that enough, and it's just kind of jarring at points. And it also looks like they had two different styles. Like there's not a cohesive style in the art presentation of the DMD. I don't get it. It's really bad. It doesn't fit. The rest of the machine looks quality, but that doesn't fit it.
Yeah, I agree. The explanation I heard on the animations, and I'm not making excuses, but the reasoning behind the animations are the way they are because they put the time and effort into the animations where the player is able to stop and look up. So you'll notice like when the ball's being held and you look up, you'll see the higher quality animations. And when the game's just kind of like, when you're in the middle of play and it's presenting some information, then it's just throwing up the lower quality ones. So, not that that's an excuse or is it acceptable, but that was the reasoning behind it. And maybe it's a factor of it being a small team, a new company, and they don't have the assets and the resources to put into a full-time animator the way Jersey Jack can with Dialed In or a Hobbit, or, you know, those, to me, I always bring those up too because those are like the top level ones, right? And then you got Stern somewhere in the middle with the DVD menus lay as our chat room.
I was enjoying, what's that? Joe, how do you say his name?
Jabaruji.
Jabaruji says, yeah, the animations look like they are from Microsoft PowerPoint for Windows XP. I keep on waiting for that little paperclip guy to pop up on there. That's like the level of animations.
It looks like you're looking for help with your pinball machine.
Yeah. It's too bad because, again, there's like a disconnect from the rest of the machine. It's not one solid fluid presentation, right? That's jarring compared to the kind of the rest of it.
Yeah, and the other thing and it ties into the animations and also some of the sound, is the verbosity of the game. When you start a mode and it says, it gives you the life history of Houdini and all the shots you got to hit in the mode up front. It's like, and yeah, I know those are adjustments you can make in the menus and things like that, but if people play this on location, they're going to play it at the default settings most likely, and it's going to be like that. And you know, maybe skilled players know to double flip to skip. If that, I don't know if that's on by default or if you have to turn that on. But yeah, it's different. I don't know if it's necessarily good. Personally, I think it's too much. Like, I want to just get back into playing pinball.
Yeah, I heard Josh Sharp was on the Head to Head Pinball podcast, which, by the way, check out. That's a great episode by them. Highly recommend that. But Josh was on there and he was talking about Houdini, and he was talking about like the call outs in the game, and the call outs are like, shoot this and shoot that. Like, it's, his point was like, it's just too much. Like I think he was saying it takes him out of like this world under glass and this theme versus like, I'm just kind of mechanically going through this and shooting targets in a pinball machine, right? Like you lose the theme or you lose the world because it's too verbose.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I know Kevin likes it, and I like games where it kind of tells you what to go for. I think Dialed In is good at that without being too much. And I think I think Houdini just oversteps the loop too much, which is too bad. And I know what they're trying to go for, because pinball is confusing, and half the time you don't know what to shoot for.
Right.
So having the game tell you can be a plus. But I also get Josh Sharp's point, where it's a fine balance between just having the machine constantly talk at you and tell you what to shoot, and just trying to get lost in the theme without having it kind of interrupt you.
Right. All right, so let's talk about lighting a little bit before we move on. We've been talking mostly about the display. So the lighting strikes me as like it reminds me of Wizard of Oz, like where they're like, we have these RGB LEDs, let's turn them all on and make them do all the things all the time and make it all sorts of different color. And it doesn't really fit with the art on the playfield to me. It's like you've got the lighting and the coloring of the lighting.
Oh, because
Nick totally didn't listen to anything I just said.
No, I was reading the chat.
So it's it's got that like rainbow effect going on a lot, and, and you have this playfield that's like this grungy, like steampunk kind of feel.
Yeah.
And there's a disconnect there too, I think.
There's definitely a disconnect. Like they're almost like showing off that, look, we can do all these cool LED lighting effects, versus like, well, do you really need to do that on this game? Does it fit the theme? What is the theme? And then everything else should flow from there, rather than like, oh, you have the technology, so we're going to rotate through these lights because, my God, pinball people like all the lights possible and all the different colors.
Yeah.
Again, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I would like a little more, careful use of coloring and more conscious thought put into, let's make this fit the theme rather than just, show off all the colors, which is cool. If you want to do that in a track mode or whatever, that's cool. But once you get into the game, let's get down to business. You know what I mean? All right. Gameplay. Whew, this is the thing on this game, right?
That's how I can definitely put a lot of my rating behind. So I struggled. The first time I played this was back in Allentown, and I played a couple balls. I'm like, okay. And then I played it more at Pinball Expo, and I just walked away from it. The issue with me for this game is that the shots are way too damn tight. And the problem is, like, every shot is tight. It's not like this is a game where, it has like one or two tight shots. Like, let's talk about Ghostbusters. They had that one
ramp,
like the right ramp, ridiculously tight shot, and that's sort of okay on there. I don't love it, but it's sort of okay because it's just one shot in the game, right? But like Houdini is like, every shot in that game is that right ramp on Ghostbusters. It's just way too much. It's not fun, man. It's not fun, and hitting a shot, you would think it would feel is really satisfying. It's more, I guess, a relief than satisfying when I finally do make a shot. The only saving grace is that with all the tight shots, of course, a lot of the shots are coming back at you. It doesn't drain too easily. I think the out lanes are sort of geared towards keeping the ball in play more so than not. It's not terribly brutal down there. So that's sort of the saving grace with the tight shots. But man, you're going to be breaking a lot. And as somebody had said before, I guess, with the stand-up targets being so close together and narrow shots, if they start moving over a little bit, which they tend to do on location, a lot of my Stern games do that. I think every pinball machine does that. It could start making those shots even tighter and potentially blocking them. So I don't know. This design doesn't work for me. None of the shots feel satisfying for me. It's more of a relief feeling when I do hit it, and then I just sort of like walk away. The night that I played it a lot, we were doing a stream of Baywatch. All right, so while they were streaming Baywatch, I went over and played Houdini, and I couldn't wait for my turn to come back up on Baywatch because it was so much more fun to shoot on that game and to hit shots on Baywatch than it was on Houdini. I drive like almost next to no joy on that game.
So I think this is where Nick and I diverge a little bit in our thoughts on Houdini. Like, I tend to fall more into the camp of our buddy Steve Bowden, that they're tight but findable. You're going to go through the initial bricking process. You will brick a lot of shots, and you'll see this if you look at our stream of this on YouTube. Like, at first I'm kind of bricking shots, but after like a game, I start to find it, and I'm hitting that super tight milk can shot, and I'm getting my multiplier ready, and then I'm backhanding the right orbit instead of trying to forehand it, or the right, yeah, it's the orbit to the left of the orbit where you put the lock shot in, and so I start hitting my shots, and I start feeling really good about it because people are talking about how tight these shots are all the time, and so to me it feels extra satisfying when you do hit them. One of the issues I had was when I started multi-ball, like, okay, I did the thing, I got the multi-ball going, but then there was almost no ball save on it. So it's like there's these super tight shots. And actually, Josh from American Pinball was in chat that night, and I hopefully he takes this into consideration. Like, just give me more ball save on the multi-ball. I spent all that time, made these tough shots, felt really good about getting there, made the trunk do the awesome thing, and then the multi-ball was over like that because it was just so crazy. And you know, they've also built in for the noobs, they're gonna brick their way into Seance multi-ball more likely than not. So they've kind of built some of that into the design. But there's no doubt about it, the shots are tight. But I think I don't think this is a game I'd want to play on location. Having it in your home and being able to find the shots and just keep hitting start. And I think this is a game that I would enjoy. I have a Ghostbusters. I like games that are brutal. So I'm okay with games like that. So for me, I think I'd be okay with it.
I think this was kind of weird from my experience. I don't know if anybody can relate to this, but it felt like the flippers themselves, like the timing was just off. Because they probably use their own proprietary flipper system or whatever.
I think they're using P-Rock.
Okay, it just didn't feel like anything else. Like when I would hit the flipper button and when it flipped, there was like a little bit of a delay compared to like a Stern or a Williams or a Jersey Jack. And I had to kind of self-adjust. So added that to the bricking shots and it was frustrating. I can't stand the delay in the flippers because no other game is like that. It's just instantaneous. So again, that was did you notice that at all when you played?
I think just any manufacturer's flippers feel slightly different because they're all using little different mechs, little different hardware and software to communicate with it. So there's always just a little bit different. And I think certain people are, I think I tend to adjust to the timing a little bit better than some other folks do. Like I had a virtual pinball cabinet, and while there was a big difference between real pinball and that, I could pretty easily adjust between the two, like timing wise, like the physics of the shots and everything aside, be like, oh, okay, in my mind, I need to be a little earlier on that or whatever. So maybe it's because I'm not as good of a player and I'm not as accurate with my shots. I don't notice it as much, but it doesn't bother me as much is what I should say.
I think for me, it's like I noticed instantaneously. Like, so I was self-aware of what was going on, that there was a delay. And it's not the inability to adjust to it. It was more the frustration is that, man, there shouldn't be a delay in this. I should be able to hit it and it should respond just like all these other pinball machines. I think that was it. I could adjust, but it was just frustrating from the back of my mind. I don't know.
I just take it as a difference between manufacturers, and they're all going to be a little different. Williams and even Jersey Jack mechs don't feel anything like Stern mechs. Stern mechs are super fat, super strong and powerful. Jersey Jack's a little less so. Williams are on the lower end too, so it's like there's a different feel to every pinball machine manufacturer, I think.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm able to jump from like a Jersey Jack machine to a Stern machine, and yeah, sure, there's a difference, but the timing is still there. Like I know when I hit a shot on here in Jersey Jack, it's going to go where I expect it, and Stern. This I don't know, it threw me off. It was a frustrating experience. I'm sure somebody who owns the game in their home and they played it, dozens and dozens of times, has mentally adjusted to it and just accepts it now. But going back and forth again, when I was playing Bayrosh, hit the flipper, instantaneously comes up, hit the flipper on Houdini, and there's a delay. That's a bit frustrating.
Okay, interesting. It didn't strike me as the same way it did to you. So, all right, that's the gameplay. Let's talk about the rules. Did you get a feel for the rules at all while you were playing it?
Not enough, unfortunately. So I'll let you take this away.
Yeah, I mean, I've played it for like a few hours at best. And the best thing about playing with James is he's a really good coach, and I want him to come with me. Like, I played a game of Star Wars, not to diverge from this too much, but I played a game of Star Wars with him, and he got me all hyped what I was doing on Star Wars, a game I don't particularly enjoy. So he does a really good job of explaining what you need to hit and when and why.
Okay.
So for me, it's great to have somebody like that on hand when you're playing a new game like this. But, to the rules, it's like, I'm not going to do this justice. I'll say that it's a mode-based game. It has some interesting rules. There's some quirky stuff in it that new pinball manufacturers tend to try, like the reverse inverted flippers kind of stuff that is fun, and it's amazing integration with the theme because it's for like the mode where you're supposed to be in the straight jacket, right? So it makes sense for that to be like the messed up flipper mode. And the first couple of times I played it, you'll see on the stream, is that I had a great reaction to it. I was like, oh, this is really funny, this is fun. And it does cool things like it can tell if you're chimp flip, if you're just flipping 2 flippers all the time, it'll call you out for it and lower the value of the jackpots.
Oh,
so
really?
there's some really cool, innovative stuff in the code that I like and appreciate. It's got, like I said earlier, there's some clever call outs, like when you go into the mystery mode. I like the humor where it pulls out things of the hat and it's like Ghostbusters, and then it's like, oh, that's not it, or it's total nuclear annihilation, or things like that, or Lion Man's in there and stuff like that. So these cool like tips of the hat to people who are into the pinball community and things like that. Jokes, fun. I like that about it. The rules seem really weird. Like it doesn't seem super intuitive to me. Like I would have needed somebody to explain it to me right off the bat. It's not a real straightforward game like a dialed in. You kind of need to play it a bunch and figure it out and do it. But again, like I said, they've also taken account for like the difficulty of the game through Seance multi-ball, so you can get that going and feel good about yourself. I think it still needs a little bit more polish, but what's there is good. It's again above average. It's not a Lyman Sheets game, but it's fun.
Okay, I'll have to pass on rules because I just haven't played it enough to comment on it.
Yeah. All right. So Lastability, we can't really talk about that much because we haven't played it that much, but I could see this game in a home collection having Lastability because it's got that difficulty factor. The code seems pretty deep. It looks nice, so you wouldn't be like, this is a piece of garbage, get it out of here. It looks terrible. So yeah, I could see it lasting in a collection. Sure. I don't know if you had any thoughts on that.
Well, Lastability for me relies heavily on the rule set and not being knowledgeable on that. It's hard for me to comment. But we're sort of getting into the rating. I'll just say that, I mean, for me, this game is just not fun. I mean, I've tried and I've played it over and over again. It's just not a fun game. And I think I'm experienced enough in my pinball career that I know better when a game is fun. Like, I didn't have to force myself to like Iron Maiden the first time I played it. I had to force myself to like Dialed In the first time I played it, even though I didn't know exactly what was going on. It was just love the first time I played it. When I first started playing pinball, there's some games I didn't like and then I came around to. I just don't see that happening with this game. So Lastability is not even there for me.
Okay, fair enough. So one thing before we move into our final rating of this, just huge shout out to American Pinball, brand new company, comes up with the design concept, brings it to manufacturer, starts delivering games. People get the game they paid for. So kudos to you guys. Really looking forward to seeing what's coming out for game 2. Let's jump into our website here. We can give you the score rating. So before we give you our final numerical score for the game, we'll give you the score key. From 0 to 2, you should burn it. From 3 to 5 is an expensive night late. 6 to 8 is a solid game, and from 9 to 10, it's get your wallets out. What do you think?
So for me, this game is just, it screams a 5. You know, it's not a solid game, but it's not a terrible game. I think as a first effort from a new pinball company, it's respectable. It shows a lot of promise in hopefully future machines from them that they can produce and manufacture and get a game out there. The game I played seemed to work fine. It's got a toy that is pretty impressive. You know, I'm interested to see what's next from American Pinball, but at the end of the day, this was just not a fun experience for me playing this pinball machine, you know, and I shouldn't have to try to force myself to like it no matter what else is going on, and I just couldn't. Yeah.
So I was thinking about this earlier. I was like, to me, this game seems like a 7. So I'm gonna put it in the 7 range. It's fun. They did a good job integrating rules. The shots are tight. There's no doubt about that. That's been talked about endlessly. But I think if you play it, you can find the shots. If you like a game that's a challenge, this is going to be a good game for you to have in your collection. If you like a more of a flow, kind of smooth, easily, you know, I think I always talk about Dialed In, but it's like got the ramps that are like butter. Like they're just where you expect them to be. This is not that game. This is the game where you have to sit down. You're gonna have to practice. You're gonna have to find the shots. But when you do, you're gonna be able to play it well and hopefully have a good time with it. So those are our thoughts on Houdini.
Cool.
All right. So, let's get into Q&A time. So we just got a few here today. We have one email from Adrian. He says, with the popularity of video games such as the Pinball Arcade and Zen Pinball, do you think pinball video games have become an equal alternative to real pinball? What do you think?
An equal alternative to pinball? No. I mean, there's no...
It's never going to be the same.
It's never going to be the same. You know, what makes pinball special is the physical nature of it, and it just cannot be replicated on a digital medium. It just is impossible. You know, there are things that can be replicated more easily, like take a board game and you can put it in digital space, and you know, the board game is not doesn't lie on the physical the physics of it unless it's a dexterity game. I mean, it loses something in that translation because there is picking up pieces and stuff. But with pinball, you just can't replicate it. Now, with that said, I think it's fantastic that Pinball Arcade and Zen Pinball have been popular and they've gotten a lot of people into pinball. And it's great for learning the rules. It's great for getting exposure to different pinball machines. So it's fantastic. You know, if you're on an airplane and you're craving pinball, great, pull that open and play it. You know, or if you don't have machines in your area, that's a great opportunity to play pinball, and you can practice and even get a little bit better, you know, to an extent. But pinball, and what makes pinball special is the fact that it's a physical game.
Yeah. Like Alan's Arcade said, video pinball helps understand the rules, but it does not replicate the real world physics of a pinball machine, and it's not going to happen in our lifetimes. All right. So the second part of his question, he says, I asked Kevin this question on Monday's stream, but do you think we'll one day see a Pinball 2000 game or something similar? So do you think Pinball 2000 style game is going to make a comeback?
I don't know. I mean, it's not something I think that format's dead. I don't know what's going to happen, you know, in the years to come. It's kind of cool what, you know, Jersey Jack did with Dialed In and incorporating that hologram effect on like the theater. So it's taking an idea from Pinball 2000 and using that technology a little bit, which is not like brand new technology by any way, shape, or form, but something like that, incorporating that into the machine, I think can make sense without making this bulky game with a monitor. You know, maybe somebody might try it. We're seeing innovation in pinball, but I think pinball's what makes it special is largely it's sort of the simplicity of it, that it hasn't changed drastically in the last, you know, I don't know what, 40 years, something like that. Yeah.
And I don't think you need a display like that now. They needed that in 2000 because pinball was dying and they needed to do something to innovate to try to keep it alive to get Williams. So they're like, this is our last ditch effort to keep pinball alive, keep Williams Bally pinball going. We need to do something amazing and innovative to really take it to the next level. So they threw everything they had into that system. And I remember we were talking about this on Monday that, you know, I remember seeing these games everywhere when they came out. They sold like 8,000 or 9,000 of the Revenge from Mars. So Pinball 2000 it wasn't a failure. It was a success, but there just wasn't enough money in pinball anymore. So there's way more money in slot machines. So they make slot machines now.
Who knows what would have happened if Williams continued down that track? I don't, I don't know.
Yeah. I guess the thing about, Wizard Blocks was going to be the game from Pat Lawler, and I remember hearing this somewhere along the line that with Revenge from Mars and Star Wars, they had to really like make the screen do everything because it was new. They had to show everything that it could do, and in Wizard Blocks, they were going to kind of scale it back a little bit and just have it be part of the playfield, more integrated with traditional pinball. So it would have been interesting to see it kind of take that next step.
Yeah,
but who knows if we'll ever see it. But I don't think Pinball 2000 is coming back. I think you're going to see it integrated in little ways like the theater. It was awesome.
Or like multimorphic, what they're doing. You know, they're doing their own kind of take on using like digital video, right, and pinball. But that's more pure pinball at the same time. So I like that approach better than that necessarily. Because the Pinball 2000, the machines are smaller. Right, the playfield's I think a little smaller.
Playfield's the same size, but it's like more compact because the back box is like on top of the screen, so and it also feels smaller because the screen is blocking.
That's a
so
standard
much
playfield.
It is.
It's the same size as like Tron or Ghostbusters.
Yep.
All right, I'm mistaken.
Because if you look at it, like a traditional pinball machine has the playfield and then the thing on the back for the back box.
Yep.
That's the reason why the cabinet is shorter.
Okay.
But the playfield's the same size.
Forget I said that. Moving on.
It's a common misconception though, so it's interesting it's important to point it out.
Well, it's so when I play that game, it's so dark.
There you go. We got Kiefer in the chat. Who worked on this game, so he said it's 1 inch shorter than one WPC type game, but still longer than high speed.
Thank you.
It's longer than high speed.
No, well, I was right though. I said like Tron or Ghostbusters. It is shorter. Thank you, Kiefer. Thank you. Kevin's kind of fighting back.
Yeah.
1 inch is significant.
How much shorter is high speed? That's what I need to know.
But I knew that. I knew high speed was a little shorter too. Yeah. So those, it's a little shorter. But it's also...
But it's not, like, if you look at the difference of the cabinets, it's not like the 3 or 4 inch
right. It's not like a
difference.
child's game or something.
Yeah.
It's not like the pin from Stern. I think what also makes that game seem smaller too is like it's really dark in the back, right? So it just feels like even less real estate. All right.
See, it's Black Knight or High Speed is 2 inches shorter. So
okay.
There you go. All right, moving on to Twitter. Or actually, we didn't get any tweets. So Discord. Destroyer of Worlds. Luigi wants to know, what are the best pinball machines to get introduced to pinball? What would you say was one of the best games to get introduced to pinball? So,
that's an interesting. You know what first popped into mind, and maybe because it's timely with the World Cup, but I think World Cup Soccer is a great game to introduce people to pinball too. I like the fact because like there's the shooting the goals. I think people can get that's a thing. But it's also good for the established player. I know that wasn't part of the question, but that's a cool game, and it's family friendly. It's it's not like you don't have to worry about like dark humor or is that going to be in my house or whatever. So that's cool.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I was thinking something with simple rules, but you think about something like Addams Family, but that's not.
It's too much.
It's not obvious. It wasn't obvious to me as a novice player that I needed to hit the ramp to relight the chair. It took me I had to like have somebody tell me that. It's
you know what I like to do when I like to teach people that there's rules in pinball? So my countdown, because I'm like, this is simple, right? Like everything's gonna like, here's your bonus that all these shots increase it. Then you hit these down, then it times the bonus and see how they're color coordinated. And that's it. Or like putting in the scoop will collect bonus. Like you can almost start off with a classic game and just explain basic rules to get people understanding, oh my God, there's rules in pinball, but you're not overwhelming them with wizard modes and multi-ball and everything like that. And then you can work your way up potentially.
Yeah. SD Pinball says TNA would be good. I can. It's similar to like your countdown. I think,
Yeah.
And it's obvious that the ball lock is there and things like that. So anything with an obvious thing to do or really kind of simple rules that you can explain in like less than 30 seconds is going to be a good game.
Yeah, Juckworks since Grand Prix and Jungle Queen. I had Grand Prix. I was thinking that too in my mind. That's easy. The old school machines, I think, can really kind of help people understand pinball. And the nice thing is they can get comfortable with it and not overwhelmed. You're like, you do this and this and this, and that's it. That's all there is to the game. Versus, oh, you want to learn how to play, Metallica? Well, you do this, and it's too much.
Forget it. Yeah.
So,
somebody said Medieval Madness. I think that's good too because you can just hit the castle and it does something awesome.
Yeah, they're gonna get that satisfaction. That's another thing. Star Wars, okay. Dude, no one is going to get the multi-ball in that game.
Nobody
No
is.
casual person's going to get some... What are you guys thinking? You got to give them multi-ball.
Give the people multi-ball.
Come on.
Give them multi-ball.
Or at least the castle does something cool.
Yep.
I mean, Sparky and Metallica almost takes too many shots for a lot of people, but they see it and they know
you're
they'll
like,
go
ooh,
for
if
it.
I can do that, yeah.
It's like 12 shots.
Yeah,
So,
it's a lot of shots.
But yeah, you got to give something cool for casual people to do on a pinball machine.
All right, second question from Destroyer of Worlds. What pins between you and Nick are the ones you would play for years to come? What are your top 3 all-time pinball machines? We kind of talk about this question a decent amount, but what could you see yourself playing a long time down the road?
I've been playing a lot of Metallica lately. I'm surprised I came back for that. I'm actually selling it to Martha, so it's staying in the collection.
That's the way to do it.
I've been playing a lot of Metallica. I come back to games. Here's the games I've been playing recently. I've been playing Metallica, I've been playing Walking Dead, and I've been playing Dialed In. Those are the 3 games that I've been playing a lot of, and I can feel like if I come home, I can play either one of those machines, and those were the first 3 I would go to out of a collection of 12 games. So, I've had Metallica now the most for, I don't know, 3-4 years, 3 or something like that, 3-4. I've had Walking Dead for over 2 years, and I've had Dialed In for a little less than a year. And I babysat it for a while. So, that one's the youngest one. We'll see how I feel in a couple of years, but the other ones are holding strong.
Yeah. I would probably go... Dialed In would definitely be in there. I think Adams would be in there for me because it's just fun when I play it. Like, when I want to just... It's easy, yes. Like, once you know what you're doing, there's not a lot to it, but the theme integration, everything like that, so it's 2 for 2 for Pat Lawler. But I guess game number 3, I would probably want a longer playing game. I don't know, something with more of an adventure to it. I think of something like The Hobbit, where you could just get lost in it for 45 minutes and play. Hobbit or Lord of the Rings, I don't have as much time, and I'm not just sucking up to Kiefer because he's in chat.
He is.
But
he's a shill for Jersey Jack. We all know Kevin Nix.
Yes. But I said Lord of the Rings too. But a game like
It's
that,
a Kiefer game.
yeah, it is. I said that for him. So yeah, I would want a kind of a mix of games. I think of game styles, except for the two that are obviously like each other because they're Pat Lawler games. All right, never mind.
I like Iron Maiden. That's like the new hotness. Like, here's the interesting thing is, so like, when I streamed last week, I'm like, I really want to go play Iron Maiden, even though that is like far more work for me to like package up my like streaming rig, go down in public, set it up, and do all that. Like, it's way more work, and I'm like, it's the summertime, I want to be lazy, but I really wanted to play that game. But what ended up happening is like I blew it up by like an hour and a half. I'm like, I'm spent. I'm done. That's the thing with like, I like longer games, but like once I blow up a longer game, like I never want to touch it again. Whereas like a game, like a shorter playing game, like Walking Dead, it will just beat me into the ground that I'll keep on hitting start and it'd be like 2.5 hours later and I'm still trying to chase that.
I don't know.
So it's different experiences.
I don't always want to be getting my ass handed to me, I guess.
I can't like walk
It can't
away.
always be an abusive relationship. I need to have some comfort in my life.
It's got me hooked. I'm like, but I'm like, well, it's a different feeling, but I can play it longer because I'm like, I'm going to get it this time. No, it's like that gambling addiction, right? Like, oh, now one more time you pull that slot machine. This is the time I know I feel.
Oh, I get that too. But
whereas like with Maiden and like longer playing games, like Hobbit's that way too. Like after I blow the game up, I'm like, I'm good. I feel satisfied. I walk away happy though. That's the difference.
You're like, I did it.
Walking Dead, I'll go to bed like angry, which is not a good game to play before you go to bed.
Exactly. All right. Taz Tiger wants to know which childhood trauma caused my face to be like that. So I'll leave that up for the viewers to decide. So there you go. I threw that in there for him. So I think he left, but he's in Australia, so he's like
right.
living in the future. All right. That's going to bring this episode to a close. Before we wrap it up, why don't you go ahead and give us a follow on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch. If you like what you're hearing, you can connect with us those other places. You can always email us, talkpinball@gmail.com. We let you know on every episode. If you ever have a question, you really want to get it answered on the show,
we answer.
Sometimes we miss stuff in chat because things are moving fast. We want to put together a nice, tight show for you guys. So email is the best way to get your questions answered. Also, be sure to follow and sub our Twitch channel. If you have Twitch Prime, you can subscribe. If you have Amazon Prime, you can subscribe to our channel at no extra cost. It's a great way to support us. And you can follow us on Patreon.
That's right. So we got Patreon. Some of our viewers requested it because they're maybe not on Twitch or whatever. They're just listening to the podcast. So if you want to show some support, head over to patreon.com/Buffalo Pinball. For just $1 a month, you can support this. You basically set up your information and it deducts $1 every month and you can just forget about it. It's less than, you can't even get coffee. Like maybe McDonald's coffee.
You could set it and forget it. Is that what you would say?
Set it and forget it.
And so there's a benefit. You get the job done. There's a benefit for those who support us by through Patreon or now for Twitch subs as well. You can vote on the game we review every month. So we put this up for a vote, and the folks wanted to hear us talk about Houdini, so that's why we did Houdini.